Hey, Unbreakable here. We have another really incredible guest here who I am really excited to introduce you to. As y'all know, who have been around me for any length of time, I am truly an advocate for any survivor of any type. But you've probably heard me oftentimes get very passionate about our male survivors because we as females have so much more of a voice than they do that one of my initiatives in 2025 is giving more of our men a voice. So I'm honored to welcome James. And James, if you would just kind of take a moment here and introduce yourself and why you're coming to us today.
Um, well, as you said, my name's James. I was a paramedic. I describe it as I was a paramedic for 25 years and had some firefighting duties thrown in there also. Um, I been through a lot of stuff dealing with PTSD back when I was working. It was not heard of.
Mm-hmm.
PTSD was not heard of for anybody but the military.
Correct.
And I think it was even still called shell shock or I
Correct.
forget the other terms for it offhand.
Yeah.
And there were many times and many bad calls that just I couldn't comprehend. And there was no help or anything like that back then. They expected us just to jump right back on the rig and keep going. And that's what we did. And, we all felt 10 foot tall and bulletproof with our gear on. But that didn't stop it entering our heads, and we kept ruminating over all these calls and things, and it, it started becoming more towards the forefront as more people were being seen by their private docs or even going to a psych doc, to try to figure out what's going on, because that's what happened to me. I was like, why am I like this?
Yeah.
Why do I cry at a TV commercial? What's going on? At first it was, oh, well, you have depression, or you just need to take Prozac or Zoloft, or they just kept throwing all these meds at me. But it wasn't making me feel any better. I'd still go to work. I still had these calls popping up. I wasn't sleeping. um, Flashbacks, and over the years it's gotten better. I have gone through at least 20 years of seeing counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists. In fact, I still go twice a week. I have a personal counselor, and then I have a PTSD group made up of EMS. We have respiratory therapists, doctors, nurses,
Mm-hmm.
uh, anybody. It,
Mm-hmm.
you know, PTSD can affect anybody. And I like to say, and I don't know if you've heard this, that PTSD is a normal response to an abnormal incident.
Correct.
And, we talk about, well, why can't you just let it go? Why can't you just forget? And our brains won't let us forget. There's this little piece in there called the amygdala, and it's like, hey, dude, you remember this? Hey, what about this one?
Mm-hmm.
And it does it's indiscriminate. It can happen in the middle of the night. It can happen because um I can't go to areas where I used to work very easily, because sometimes my brain will just go poof, and all of a sudden I'm back at a call that
You're
I hadn't thought
right
of in
back.
30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I I'm better, and some days I'm not that not that I'm not better.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that I can get through it, and I know that I can handle it, and things that I've done and learning techniques. I'm very passionate about this. And it's just, I can get on my soapbox, because if I can help one person, and that's my soul, just one person to know that they're not alone. And come on, the hardest step is to ask for help. Take that step. And let me tell you, I didn't want anybody that I worked with to think I was weak or I had a dent in my armor. I wanted them all to think I'm 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Here we come, nothing bothers me.
Mm,
And it it did. But I love the job, and I'd go back and do it in a heartbeat. Don't get me wrong. I love that job. I love the people I worked with, and through all my counseling and things, I've learned quite a bit about myself and about my childhood and things that I hadn't remembered.
mhm,
And I don't blame my parents. I don't even blame my brother for the things he put me through.
mm.
Uh, Zara, I grew up in a military family. I was the last of five kids. Military, you have your rank. So I was the lowest ranking person. So it all ran down onto me. And then I didn't have a voice.
Oh yeah.
I tried to talk to my mom about what my brother was doing, and it fell on me. So I became, a people pleaser. I didn't say anything to anybody. I just took the whatever my brother dished out, and my mom was real strict. Military wife, got to have all kids look good, got to have the house look good, got to be perfect. So I try to be perfect.
Mhm.
And so I got a raging case of OCD that drives me absolutely crazy to this day. I, I I talk to myself while I'm rearranging the cans in the kitchen, and I'm like, dude, you need to stop this. This is silly. So, I've become aware of some things that have added to it that made it easier to be, I don't want to say hurt, but I'll just say it, to be hurt by PTSD. Uh, all these, all this time away from the job, I have tried to get involved with groups that would go out and talk to others. And when we go out, my two biggest things that I would say is always protect your mind and your back. And now my kids are all in the medical field, and I told them, I said, didn't you guys learn anything from me? So yeah, it was crazy. So I've been through the gamut. I was an alcoholic and a drug addict and I've been clean and sober over 18 years now. And I did try suicide one time.
Mhm.
I was sitting there drinking, and I was just so drunk that I couldn't load the gun. And I kept trying. I just couldn't figure. So I just put it all away. And actually, during that time, I was thinking about my baby daughter, my oldest daughter. Um, she was probably 2 at that time. Now in case she sees this at some point, she's not 2 anymore.
Such a good dad.
Yeah, I realized, I'm like, dang, where'd the time go? You
Yeah.
blink and it's gone.
Yeah.
So
You
yeah,
now you when you reached out to me, you sent me a copy of your book. And to anybody who is watching, will be watching this, I will be dropping a link to that book.
oh,
Um,
thank you.
in your story, you what some of the things that you witnessed were so graphic that so many people will never fathom, will never be able to wrap their heads around. And
Trigger warning on that.
absolutely, you internalized all of it. You talked about that in your book. You had to compartmentalize. You had to put it away. You couldn't, I can't think about that right now. I can't deal with that right now. And
Yeah,
especially in your line of work, it's like I got to get back. I got to get back on track. I got to get to the next job. I got to get to the next call. When you finally got to the point where something's out of control here, like I'm melting down, I'm falling apart, what was the very first step that you took when you started seeing, okay, something's just not right here? What was the first, kind of the first step?
I'm trying to think of when exactly I started. Let's see, it's 2025. So 2005. Okay, so let me go back. It was in 2005. I took an independent contractor job as a paramedic over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia,
Mhm.
and that wasn't all, fun and games over there. It was a scary time.
Yeah.
I almost got taken off a bus because my papers weren't stamped right. So I got back to the States, and that's when I knew something wasn't going right with me. I tried to get back to work. I was back in Texas at this time. I'm in California right now, and I tried to go back to work. I couldn't get along with anybody. I
Mm.
was arguing with everybody. Um, through a couple of years, I ended up getting arrested for fighting, not physical, just verbal altercations.
Mhm.
Uh, I've broken my hands, each one about 5 times
Mhm.
total. I can't straighten this hand up. The little fingers is, on the other side. But they work. I got two hands, no complaints. So actually, um, the woman that helped me get out of Saudi Arabia, she suggested I should go talk to somebody. So I did. And that lady said, after she stopped crying, she said that I believe you have some kind of post stress syndrome. I think that's what they called it then.
Yeah, still wasn't classified or in, the books as PTSD. Right.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. So I'm starting to figure this out that I actually got something. It's not that I'm crazy and, I'm falling apart. Well, I was, but it's not like, yeah, it's not like I was crazy. I actually had something, and I'm like,
Right.
okay. So I read up on it, and I'm like, okay, well, this all makes sense. Yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that. It's been months, if not years. You know, no wonder. And I hadn't slept in so long. My sleep schedule was, I got afraid to go to sleep
Oh yeah.
every night. I was afraid, and so I went to another counselor, and they put me through a slew of tests, and said, "Yeah, we believe you do have post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's just higher. You have post-traumatic stress, then there's PTSD, then there's CPTSD, and I've moved up in the ladder. I'm now considered complex PTSD.
Hmm.
Um, I've had good flashbacks. I've had ugly flashbacks. As far as dreams." I reached a point, and this may sound weird, but I made peace with my dreams. I don't know how to describe this. This one night I'm having these dreams, and I say, and in my dream, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, dude. Uh, talk to this. Talk. So I was like, you know what? You're not going to scare me no more. I don't know, it may sound silly, but I stood up to my dreams, so to speak. And you know what? My dreams haven't bothered me.
Mm.
I haven't had bad dreams in a while, and I'm not saying that that's the end all to how to deal with it.
Right.
There's so
Right.
many different modalities and treatments and things out there, and I'm happy with the way things are going with me. Yeah, I still have a flashback here or there. I still have a bad day where I'm full of anxiety,
Hmm.
and I believe the anxiety came on in my childhood from trying to be perfect,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and I've had some flashbacks and I call my wife Tracy. I say she's pure sweetness. She goes out in the rain, she'll melt. Because I got a minute. Let me tell you, Tracy and I met back in 1976. We went to the same private school uh, here in Vacaville, California, and I was there for 2 years, and they didn't have higher grades, so I had to leave, and I left. Hadn't seen her, talked to her in years. Her best friend at the school was my girlfriend at the time, and the three of us ran around and did everything together. But so fast forward to 2011. So from 1978 to 2011, I hadn't seen or talked to Tracy. I'm in Texas. She's in California. I had already loaded up my truck because my kids were all out here, and I thought I've been gone 10 years.
Mhm.
Um, it's time to get back to my kids. And the reason why I was gone was I believed um, I have three kids. My oldest daughter's from my first wife, two kids from my second wife. My second wife was a narcissist. I had no clue what that meant until years after we had been split up. She bought me a ticket to Texas, told me the kids would be better off without me. So I went back to Texas. And I believe that the kids would be better off without me because who wants this guy who's this yelly, screamy, doing drugs, whatever, drinking a lot, just not getting along with the world? Who'd want them around your kids? So anyway, 2011, I start talking to Trace. I tell her I'm already on my way out. Uh, we met up here. We've been married 10 years now.
I love that.
Feels like it's only been an hour. It's just been the greatest. She took time out to learn about PTSD,
Mhm.
to study that most people with PTSD don't hurt other people. We just
Mm-mm.
hurt ourselves. I
Correct.
don't know any of my buddies out there that have PTSD that have ever hurt anybody else. I've had friends commit suicide um, more times than I'd like to wish that that would happen. And all of this put together, I had been journaling. A counselor said try journaling, so I had those little books you'd get when you're in college for
Yep.
writing essays and chem books and stuff like that. I had those full. And Tracy, she's like, you should put it into a book. She goes, you need to let other people know this too. Because
Yes.
if you feel like you're alone, there's just got to be somebody else out there that feels like they're alone.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and again, so I put it all together. I sent it off to a publisher, and it's just short, sweet, to the point, you
Hmm.
know. And the publisher said you got to take out some of the graphicness. Is that a word? Okay, it is today. Got to take out some of that. And so I started the book with the worst call I ever had in my life,
Right.
and that was back in the 80s, 1980s, to specify. And um, that call really messed me up because I couldn't help the little girl.
Right.
At fast forward to 2018, I've been looking for this little girl's gravesite, 1986, 2018. I finally find it. They have a
Mm.
memorial page for her, but nothing's written. So I write, excuse me a second. This might I write, you don't know me from Adam, but I was a paramedic there that day, and a day doesn't go by that I don't think of her. A week later, I got an email. I'm out in the garage. I get an email and it says, "This is Krista's mom." I ran in the house. I gave it to my wife. I said, "I can't read it. I don't want her to be mad at me."
Yeah.
A week later, her and her son, who was 5 at the time of the accident, are in my living room.
Oh,
And I told them, sorry. I'm sorry. And they were, why? I said, because I couldn't do anything. And they said, well, nobody can, and everything's good with us. We don't blame you. And that
mm,
right there, I got healing. And it took that long, but I got healing. They gave me pictures of Krista. They said I can use her real name and likeness and all that. So I got to see this little girl whole and complete. And I've spoken with her mom, has become a nurse, teaches
mm,
nursing. Um, I've spoke to her dad's new wife. Unfortunately, this traumatic event split up their family, and the the dad just didn't really feel like talking to me at the time.
Yeah.
He wanted to, and we still stay in contact, but we just haven't talked yet. And he lives in the same house where this accident happened still, and you know, but yeah. So now, I there was a time I wouldn't even talk about that call, but after that call, at the paramedics firefighters, we work 3 days on, 4 days on, three. I don't even remember. Anyway, we get 4 days off in a row. So I had my 4 days off in a row after that call. When that call happened, I asked our supervisor to take us out of service. I said,
I
"Come on,
read
man,
that.
you got to take us out."
Yeah.
And they wouldn't. They kept giving us calls, and that was one of the busiest shifts I've ever had. And I remember we went out on this other call, and the engine that was with us on that call, he said, "Hey, have you seen the news? They had a picture and all this stuff of the call." And I called the newspaper, the TV and the news. Oh man, yelled at them. Why are you showing this? This is nothing anybody needs to see. So even back then, stuff was coming up
Oh, yeah.
that, I normally wouldn't call up anybody and yell at them.
Right. I want to touch on that. And you
Yeah, yeah,
mentioned it. You mentioned it earlier, and then I know you wrote about it in the book. The anger. As a domestic violence survivor, my most recent um, relationship that I got out of was 15 years. And I never knew when I was in it that I was being abused. I didn't know what abuse looked like, gaslighting. I was so not trauma informed. But I remember being in it and I was always angry. And I would sit there and try to figure out in my head, what am I angry about? I couldn't put the two and two together. Well, unbreakable, you're in a traumatic situation, suffering traumas and abuse every single day, and your brain is trying to digest and compartmentalize, but yet your body can only handle so much. I think so often trauma survivors, we have warning signs, but we don't have the education, the knowledge, the wherewithal to be able to put those together, as you said, to realize, oh crap, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not broken. This is a natural reaction. This is my body reacting naturally. When you started having that anger, you did recognize that something's not right here. Like, I don't get it. But the way that it carries over, I think, from all of us, because my anger, I'm the first one to say, my anger affected my son. He was still very little, and my anger, my poor child, had to receive some of that. He didn't have to, but unfortunately was the recipient of some of that anger. I don't think a lot of people understand the correlation between our mental health and our daily life. It's like we're doing this, oh,
yeah.
well, you're always angry. We don't have the
Oh, I've heard
knowledge.
that so many times.
Yeah, we didn't have the knowledge. We didn't have the verbiage. We didn't have the vocabulary. We didn't have the education to, as I said, put two and two together and realize, no, this is a side effect of. Now,
Yes.
in seeing that, I imagine as long as you were a first responder, I imagine that this was coming from all kinds of people. Like I can only imagine that your coworkers, your teammates, your heroes that stand by your side, there was a lot of anger. Was there ever any talk by the system? Was there ever any recognition by the departments, by the organizations to say, oh, we got a problem here? Was there any, did they see it back then?
I I I like a lot of us can put on a happy face and walk in and do that.
Mask. Yep,
My
the mask.
second my second wife after we split up, my daughter. I have old daughter, middle daughter, young son. They're all not so young anymore. Sorry. But my second wife and my last two kids, my second wife, after we split up, my daughter said, "Dad, have you ever heard of narcissism?" And I was like, "No." She says, "Look it up." So I look it up and I go, "Wow, that describes your mom to a T." And you're right. Looking back, I didn't know what narcissism was. I didn't know what gaslighting was. I just knew the rules changed daily and I couldn't keep up with them,
Hmm.
and I didn't know if she was going to be upset because I didn't wash one glass, even though I did the whole rest of the place. I didn't know that. In fact, one day she was yelling at me, and I usually just sit there. I don't like arguing. I don't like yelling. I like communication and talking. Anyway, I don't know what happened, but she just hauled off and punched me. So gave me a black eye, broke my glasses. I remember being down on the ground trying to find my glasses, and she reaches up and just scratches from my chest all the way up my neck. And then the next day, I broke my hand. So I had to go to the hospital. There, is this a domestic? No, no, it's not a domestic. You know, typical what happens, and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Now I look back, I was like, I I went through well, you were an idiot. What a dummy. I was hard on myself.
Oh yeah.
And nobody in this world's harder on me than I am.
Yep.
My
I
wife
say it, I
constantly
say it
reminds me,
all the time. We are our worst abusers.
yeah, exactly. My wife is always telling me, you need to be nicer to yourself.
Hmm.
You need to be nicer to yourself. You gotta, get through. You've gotten through every bad day for the last, I don't know how many years. You know, I, I've had time in a psych facility for overnight stays, things like that, and a lot of that sent me to good people that helped.
Hmm.
And as it progressed, I was able to find therapists that were specific to PTSD, still kind of shock them, with stories and incidences and things like that. But made it. I'm here. I'm alive. I'm clean and sober. Thoughts of hurting and suicide. And I used to cut. I think you're
Mm.
the third person I've ever said this to in my life, besides my wife. I used to cut,
Hmm.
and I know there's a song out there, and it says, "You bleed just to know you're alive," and that's the way I felt.
Hmm.
I felt the pain and the blood, and it was it was like, I don't know, it was like taking a Xanax. I chilled out. It was like, okay, cool, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I I, I back up. Um, what got me started on drugs was I I've got a I broke my neck, my mid back. I've had surgery. They started giving me Vicodin.
Mm.
So one day I took two, and I realized I could handle my wife better.
Oh yeah.
She didn't make me mad. She could gaslight me all day long. It all went great, And then pretty soon two Vicodin didn't work, and then three didn't work, and then next thing you know, I'm taking about 50 a day. Yeah, and luckily my liver's fine.
Mm.
I've gotten through all of that. And again, I want to emphasize that there's a lot of ways to get through these things. This is just how I did it.
Right. Right.
And what works for one may not work for another.
Correct.
So again, I just, help. I know there's people out there that think that they got to be the only ones. And they sit in their rooms and they don't go outside. Trust me, I never left the house for 2 years except to go to church or Walmart or the
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah.
And now that you can have everything delivered, dang, I,
Let's
I
compound that. by the fact that you're a man. Not only are you a man, but you're a superhero first responder. Like you're supposed to be that tough and you're
Yep.
supposed to be that stoic and you're supposed to have it all together. And you're the one that we come to and we look to and we put on that pedestal as we should. But you have these societal pressures on you of maintaining this facade while on the inside, you're falling apart. Talk to me about talk to me about the struggle that you may or may not have experienced in those two polar opposite identities.
Yeah. Wow. Back in the early stages of my career, we all a bunch of us, myself included, and would make fun of guys that got burnout. Oh, you just weren't strong enough for the job. You burned out, you big wuss, you big sissy, you know, you just couldn't handle it. And then when it happened to me, I realized, wow, I was too judgmental.
Yeah,
It's not that you're weak. It's not that you're a sissy. Just that your brain's been overloaded. And I didn't immediately seek help because of that point, like you just said. As a man, we're not supposed to be like that. And with my background and my childhood, I had to be a man at all times. I wasn't allowed to cry, oh, gotta be strong, and you can't let anybody see that you're weak. You always, like I said, no one wants to see you have a dent in your armor. I saw somewhere, dented armor means you've lived and survived.
right, right,
And
right,
yeah, all the scars that I have, mentally and physically, yeah, they're healing. All my, I mean, if I didn't have long sleeve shirts on, you could see it everywhere. I don't think there's a spot I haven't
yeah,
damaged at some point, either by myself or
yeah,
on accident. Like something just popped in my head. Um, I used to, after my suicide try, I thought, well, if I can't do it myself, I'll let somebody else do it. Yeah, so I would enter calls before police or sheriff got there. I would confront the bad guy who just beat up somebody, or something like that. And I thought, well, if it happens, it happens. I drove fast, partied too hard. I just thought if one way or another, if somebody else could take me out, that'd be great. Or at least I don't want this may sound weird, or at least somebody would hit me so hard in the head that I would forget everything, and
yes,
I'd go back to being normal,
yes,
and nobody would see that I'm struggling, and then no one, because I really thought they were going to put me down, like make fun of me.
yeah,
But when I told somebody, I was scared to let it out, and then when I told somebody, they actually said, "Oh, wow, I'm glad you said something because nobody ever talks about that." And that gave me, it was like, holy cow, what I thought was going to happen didn't. I got some acceptance and some support.
mm-hmm,
And through the years of talking with folks and helping buddies of mine I've worked with, and I'm in contact with a lot of the old crews. Um, I started wearing my PTSD as a badge
yes,
of I've been there, I've done that, and instead of a T-shirt, I got PTSD,
yeah,
and I am not ashamed of it.
no, no,
You
that's
know,
amazing.
I'm not ashamed of it. I will tell people stories. I will talk people's ears off. my wife always jokes, well, like if I go into the grocery store and I'm went in to get a gallon of milk and I'm gone an hour, she'll text me, "Who are you talking to? What are you doing?" Because
Yeah,
so that was a good thing that came out of getting some help is I start talking to everybody and
yeah,
I get out of the house.
yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, the past few years for us, it kind of set me backwards. So I'm still going, I'm back into semi-isolation. Um, my wife and I, we were married about a year when my parents moved in with us.
Mm.
And my dad had Alzheimer's, my mom had dementia. And after they passed away, I was the one found my dad one morning, went down and so uh, after that we sold that mom and they passed. We sold the house. We're in a luxury fifth wheel, just my wife, myself, and my dog our dog Baxter. And then my truck blew up, so we didn't have any way to go. So had it transported up to Tracy's parents' property. They had a bunch of acreage, and we got set up there. We're there for 3 years, and then last year about this time hit the fan, and we moved out of there about 3 months ago, and yeah, found out her parents were like narcissists, and it kind of pushed some buttons and it set me back. So I'm trying to deal with that. And I left some
Yeah.
stuff up there, and I can't bring myself to go get it, but they're telling me I get it or they're going to get rid of it. I mean, so yeah, but
Trauma and healing, I try to tell people this. There is no finish line. Accept it. There's no finish line.
that is good.
We will never be done. It may lessen, the race may be easier as we go along. Our sprint, our stride may be going along just fine, but somewhere, somehow, there's going to be a rock in our path. We're going to trip up, and then, we have to start kind of from scratch again. Healing
Yeah.
has no finish line. And I think so many
Wow.
people who start healing get into the mindset, well, I want to be there. I just want to be done. And I've had those too. I've gone to my
Yep, me too.
therapist and I've said, just wave your magic wand because I want to be done. Right?
Yep.
Healing has no finish line. And healing is not a straight line. And healing is not A, B, C, D, E. It is this.
Goodness. That nails it. You don't know how much my head needed to hear all that. That's amazing because I've
Yeah,
told my counselor, look, I've been doing this so long, I should be done by now.
there is no finish line.
I should know
None.
it all. Why is this affecting me?
No.
Yeah, because you're having the greatest day. You're walking through Disneyland and you got your ears on eating a churro, and next thing you know, bam, and you're like, whoa,
Yeah,
wow,
exactly.
I like that.
100%. 100%. I
No
I am
line.
proud of you and I am honored to
Oh,
stand with you on this and give you a space to speak, especially as a man, as one of our superheroes, a first responder, as someone who has not only dealt with the traumas of work, but the traumas of childhood, the traumas of continued life, like you've been knocked down. And yet, there is nothing about you that I perceive as less than a man, as weak, as, oh, he can't handle. No, my view and what I am constantly trying to support is that just because our men struggle, that doesn't make them any less than a man. And
yes,
I get very angry when I hear people emasculate our men because, oh, he cries. Well, yeah, he cries. He's human. Oh,
right.
he has feelings. Yes, he has feelings. He's human. So, being able to support you, being able to read your book. Thank you.
I
Um,
think mm,
I'm honored to be able to do this with you. I would love to know, so I know you're kind of going through this right now. Are there
yeah.
things that you are doing right now? Are there speaking engagements? Do you reach out to the departments and interact with them to continue that support, to continue that open conversation?
I was involved with the group, and they're still out there. I believe they're still out there. Can I say who they are?
Yes, of course.
They're called the 1033 Foundation here
Love
in
it.
Vacaville, California, and they do go out, and I used to go out with them. In fact, back in 2015, 16, um, we would travel to fire base camp when they had these big wildfires, the Valley
Yeah,
Fire and the Rocky Fire,
yeah.
and we'd go up there. And I brought my dog, and all the crews knew the dog's name. Didn't know. They knew Cosmo, but they didn't know who we were.
Mhm.
And we'd stay there for a week, and just to let them come by, pet the dog, throw the ball for him, and all of that. And the one thing that I did for myself that helped, that I tell others about, is to get a hobby, to do something, to be
Yeah.
busy. I picked up woodworking.
Oh,
I hadn't had woodworking since seventh grade wood shop, made a lamp. Tracy wanted a clock, so I made her a clock. And then from there somebody else wanted a clock. And so over the years I got a complete wood shop, which is what's up at my in-laws' house. That they're I need my stuff anyway.
yeah,
I can't
yeah,
bring myself to go up there. I'm scared. I'm scared to go up there because I don't want to see him.
yeah.
But get a hobby, stay busy, do something.
Oh,
Music. Oh, put my headphones in, crank that
huge.
up.
Yes, yes.
That is big. And I can't stress that. That got me out of my head, is what I call it. It's like all I hear is music, and it shuts off all that other crap. And uh, my brain never stops. You know that meme that says,
I'm not
you know,
alone. Oh my God, I'm not alone.
my brain's like an open search engine with 20 tabs open. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
I've asked my wife numerous times. In fact, I've asked other people. I said, when you're sitting there watching a TV show, is your mind on that TV show, or is it going everywhere? Because I can't get my mind to shut off. Now, if I use headphones, it does. I don't know what it does. I don't care. All I know is it works. So I
Sure.
used to go out in the shop, put my headphones in, and make something. Didn't mean I could just whittle or sand, and just the feel of the wood, the smell of the sawdust, and that helped me. I call it woodworking is my therapy. It got me. Um, yeah, that was my therapy. And I haven't done it in a while because with all the troubles we had up on the in-laws property, he shut off the power to my shop for months. All this crap. They do the passive aggressive, and um, that yeah, when Tracy, about a month after my dad died, Tracy almost died.
Mm.
And she had lots of multiple pulmonary embolisms, lots of
Oh,
blood clots.
wow.
She's now on home oxygen. I do some PT with her, I do all that. And she lost her hair,
Mm.
and it broke her heart, you
Yeah.
know. So I grew mine out. I thought I would have it cut and make her a wig. And then they changed her meds. Her hair grew back. She's fine. And I'm just too lazy to go out and get it cut.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So um, it's also my protection mechanism.
Oh
I'll
yeah.
admit,
Oh
having
yeah.
long hair and looking scary keeps people away. And
Yep.
when I drove from Texas to California, it took me 4 days. And I swear, every time I wanted to turn around, Tracy would call me,
Mm.
and she helped me get here. She found me Cosmo. She got me a service dog through Tadsaw, train a dog, save a warrior out of Texas.
Yep.
And when I got Cosmo, me and him just bonded easy. And he got me out of the house for the first time in 2 years, other than that drive.
Yeah.
And he was a Great Dane, and he was a Brendel, and he had a black muzzle with these gold eyes.
Mm.
People stayed away from me, which is what I liked. And he was the biggest baby, biggest sweetheart in the world. Oh my gosh. He he was afraid of cats and anything smaller than him. He on
Fur
his
babies, fur babies are therapy.
oh my gosh, yes they are.
They're
He
therapy.
I, on his urn box it says the goodest boy ever.
Oh.
And he was. But I'm going to go off on dogs. Dogs are the best thing. People, we don't deserve dogs. They're the greatest things.
I know.
The way they train him at Tadsaw, if I were to approach somebody new, he came between us and just stood there. And
Wow.
once he saw everything was cool, he'd go sit behind me. He had my back.
I'm going to look into that organization. I don't know if you've been on my page recently, especially over the last couple of days. I am really extending my page as a platform for not only survivors, but a compilation of resources. And so I have been vetting a lot of resources and posting them on my page. So that sounds
That's
like one that would align with exactly what Unbreakable and Uplifting is about. I want you to take a minute or two, and I want you to speak to the men, specifically the men who are out there, who are maybe struggling with trauma, PTSD, anxiety, depression, who are struggling with maladaptive coping skills because they don't want to feel pain. Speak to our
yeah.
men. Um, give them something for about the next minute or two. Let's hear that.
Um, well, to the men, look, we're supposed to be the strong ones. We're supposed to be the ones that run toward danger.
Hmm.
Um, thank you for calling us heroes, by the way. That means a lot to me. And I'll just shout out to the LA fire guys and gals
Oh,
out there.
big,
Guys are
big
doing
right now. All of the firefighters who are out there right now.
all of them out there.
But we digress.
Yes, I do that sometimes. Sorry. Um, you guys, please just understand it's not a sign of weakness. It's really not. It's a sign of strength to recognize it and get help. If you're married or have a relationship or kids, it does affect them. They'll see it. My daughters used to say, "What's wrong with Daddy? Why is he mad at us?" And oh my gosh, my wife, he's not mad at you, huh? And you, you're strong. You're strong. You can ask. You don't have to make it widespread or wide known. You can do it. You can contact a counselor, and now with so much mental health, or you can mental health places out there, you can do it over your phone. You can do it
Fine.
online.
Yes.
You don't even have to, and nobody has to know.
Right.
But getting help, that's the biggest sign of strength. We're not 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Our turnouts do burn. And if you're going to burn if you don't start getting some help and asking, because it eats at you. It eats at you. It destroys relationships. I got two ex-wives and a woman I was involved with back in Texas that got me out of Riyadh. It destroys lives. It destroys families.
Mhm.
It hurts your kids. It does. And if getting help makes you better, it does. Trust me, it really does. I was the biggest skeptic of all of this crap. I, I'm sorry, I don't mean crap. Is that I was a skeptic of it. I thought it was all crap.
Oh yeah. Oh, I understood. I understood.
How's talking to somebody going to help me? How is doing this, doing that, and getting help? You could talk. You can pick a counselor you want. You can choose. If you don't like this one, find this one, and talk to him for 5 minutes. If it doesn't work, stop, find somebody else.
Right.
The ball's in your corner, and I know you can do it. Heck, if I could do it, anybody could. Because I just thought there was no hope for me. This is what I was going to be like for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
In fact, I had come to terms that I was never going to get involved in a relationship ever again. I thought for sure there was no way I'm just going to live at home. I'm going to have everything delivered. And you could see how that changed. And I'm glad it did because I'm 10 years with Tracy has been the greatest thing. And I lost my train of thought. I'll get it at the next station.
That's all right. That's all right. James, I want to
Yeah.
thank you so much for your bravery. I want to thank you for your service, albeit a tough call, a tough time. Um, you are an inspiration. You are an inspiration not only to our men, but to all survivors, to all people who are struggling with mental health. And I want to encourage you and support you and stand with you as you continue to speak up and speak out. So, as I said, I'm going to be including the link to your book when we get this posted. I'm going to thank you. I'm going to ask you to stay right here while I do a little quick thank you and goodbye to everybody, and then we'll chat once we go off recording.
Okay.
Okay. Y'all, I say it time and time again, and I will never stop saying it. You are not alone, and you are not crazy. Keep speaking up, keep reaching out, keep seeking help. Don't give up. Y'all go be unbreakable.